Louis.
Good morning, everybody. Delighted to welcome you back for module number 3. Really appreciate that you've all taken the time to join in the modules. We hope you've enjoyed them. Today is the final module, and as we've had in the previous sessions, we have Sharon, who's going to act as MC, and she'll go through the proceedings with you all now.
Good morning, good afternoon, 2 minutes after 12, so we're now on the afternoon. So good afternoon, everybody. You're very welcome to the third and the final module now in this TY session that we're doing for you with the Dunraven Arms Hotel and Shannon College of Hotel Management. So today we have great speakers for you that you're going to really enjoy, and it's just going to really bring together a lot of the learnings that you've had with the previous 2 sessions. So I hope since we last spoke that you might have made the mocktail that Clodagh demonstrated for you, and maybe the tacos, hopefully made those over the weekend after Chris and Jan demonstrating those to you. So between Clodagh and Yolanda, Jan and Chris and Louis, you've seen lots of different areas of hotel management and the different functions and operations that go on in hotels. And today we're going to talk to Hugh, and Hugh is the co-owner of the Dunraven Arms with Louis, and again has come into the hotel from a different route compared to everybody else. So he's going to talk a bit about his different studies, his work experience, travel, all the different skills and knowledge and expertise that he has accumulated over the years. And as always, we'd ask you to put your questions into the chat, ask your teacher to put them in there for you if you're in a classroom environment. And I'd be delighted then to put those questions to Hugh. So Hugh, you're very welcome today.
Thanks, Sharon. Nice to be back.
And we're going to go back to the beginning. We heard last week from Louis about how he had started in the hotel as a young one, washing the pots and whatnot. How did you end up in the hotel?
So I'm as opposed to my father and my uncle, I'm from Limerick, and I was brought and raised up in the village of Adare. So my father and Louis were working in the hotel. So from my earliest memories, the hotel was always part of my life, the Dunraven. So I can, from when I was in school to doing porter, to doing pot wash, to doing everything and anything within the hotel when I was here, I was always in the hotel. I think at one stage we used to do a lot of corporate dinners, and we did one for the GPA from Shannon, which was the big airline leasing company at the time. And I remember I imagine I was 8 or 9, but I was dressed up as the Milky Boy kid and put on a pony and had to ride around the ballroom. We had pigs running around the ballroom, we had bales of hay. It was a lot of fun. So I have a lot of very fond memories of my childhood in the hotel.
And I think that's a great example of all the different things that can happen in a hotel. No day is ever the same. And what you're looking at there is really event management. So we might have some of the students today that would be into that sort of thing. They like to organise nights out and organise debs and whatnot. So event management is another area in hospitality that they can go into if they do a degree or a qualification in hospitality. I think we have certainly showcased from the previous 2 sessions how diverse the industry is and all the different opportunities that are there. So I wonder, are there any photographs of you dressed up as the Milky Bar Kid and doing that? I'd love to see those now at some stage, Hugh. I think they should be up on the Dunraven website, to be honest.
I think I've done my best to make sure they've all disappeared at this stage. I don't think you'll find too many of them. I hope not.
And you were into horse riding. That was one of your hobbies and one of your passions, as was rugby. And you've been able to really combine your career in hospitality with those 2 hobbies, because I think, as we've said at the previous sessions, there can be this misconception that if you're in hospitality, the hours are very erratic, they're very, very long, but in actual fact, there are set hours. Okay, there's weekends to be worked, but you know, the benefit of that is if you're working Saturday, Sunday, you have a couple of days off during the week. And if you have a passion for various different sports, it's a great career that'll take you all around the world. And you yourself have spent time in Switzerland and Argentina, and your placement was in Switzerland. But just tell us then, TY, you didn't do a TY year, did you? Or did you do
No,
it?
I did.
Tell us about
transition year.
your TY year.
So I loved transition year. I think personally for me, I think when we got to transition year in my school when I was 16, I think it was the best year that I had in school. It was kind of, it opened up an awful lot of opportunities, and thankfully I took as many as I could. So I did everything from, I spent a week or so with classmates in Hungary. I worked my particular transition year placement. I worked with racehorses with Philip Hobbs in Somerset for a week. I spent a week in Bournemouth as well. So it was very varied, and I think that's great when you're at that age, because it gives you a sense of a lot of different opportunities, and you'll enjoy some things more than other things, but at least you kind of have a sense of what you want to do or may want to do in the future, particularly choosing subjects for Leaving Cert. But I had a fantastic time. It was a great year, and I think I enjoyed it so much. It made fifth year and sixth year much more easier, much more enjoyable then as well. But I think it's a fantastic year, and I think if you make the most of the opportunities that you're given, you'll have a great year as well.
And I think that's a really important point about making the most of the opportunities that you're given, because when you're in transition year, it is a year of discovery. And you might not know, well, what do I do with all this information and knowledge? And I think the important point to make is not to wait for somebody else to make it happen for you. You have to be brave and put yourself out there and ask for the opportunity. So, Louis has talked a lot about CVs and how to present yourself in interviews. And I think it's something that Sarah is going to talk more about later this morning or this afternoon. But, if you want to work in the Dunraven, then make contact and say, look, I'd love an opportunity to meet you, to do an interview with you, to start in the bar, behind the scenes, whatever it is. Even from a beauty and wellness side, you obviously have the gym there and the health centre, and wellness and well-being is very topical at the moment. But not to wait for somebody to ask you. If you want to do something, to be brave and make that initial contact and use your initiative, because it's a very impressive skill to have.
Yeah, certainly. I remember vividly in transition year in school, practicing interview techniques and going to a classroom and doing an interview and getting feedback on the interview afterwards. And I can remember it, it stands to you, because I can remember it to this day, and often when I'm being interviewed, or as we are, what we're doing now at the moment, it does stand to you, how you speak, how you present yourself, how you answer questions, how you respond. It'll stand to you forever, regardless of what you're doing. So it's very important. So and again, a lot of those opportunities, as you say, you have to go after them. They're not going to come to you. So, and particularly depending if you want something and you really enjoy something, and in particular with the hotel, for example, if a student wants to work in the hotel, and you can see that the students who really want it, they will repeatedly email you, call you. You can see the effort that they put into it, and it comes true, and they want to work in a hotel. They want the summer job, or they want to work in a different area, but they will make it known that they want to work, and that's what we want. We want people who are looking, who are really interested in hospitality.
And it is hard now to remember all the advice and tips that they're getting between the first two sessions and today. And one of the things that I would suggest is that, I'm sure all the students here today, or most of them certainly, have phones of some description. And if you have an iPhone, I have a notes section, the yellow notes in it. And just to be putting in there what your skill skills are, that you're not having to go and look for a notebook with these things at a later date, that just to have that there, what your key skills are, what experience you've had, examples of times when you used your initiative, which doesn't have to be in a work environment, that might be part of your GA club or rugby club. Sport, for example, is something that I think lots of employers like to see young people coming through with, because if you're part of a team or you're involved in a support in a sport, and it doesn't have to be as part of the team, maybe you're part of the back room, maybe you make the tea, maybe you put the balls and the kit away if you're not a sporty person, maybe you help with the fundraising. Those are all fantastic examples of you using your initiative and being part of a team. And just to put those things into a little note section on your phone, so that when you are preparing for an interview, that you have all that written down somewhere and you have it to hand, that you don't have to go starting from scratch each time. It's certainly something that I find very useful. So look, you did your TY year, you got lots of experience, you did your leaving, and then you went to Shannon. What did you study at Shannon?
So I did Shannon College of Hotel Management. I studied a degree in hospitality and a degree in commerce then as well, which I finished in NUI Galway. So I think we were the first year that did the commerce degree as well as the hotel degree. So we did them side by side for the first year. The second year, then we went on placement. So my language was French, so I went to Geneva and Switzerland for my year's placement. And then I went back to Galway for a year to continue studying hospitality and commerce. And then the final year, I went to Galway and I did commerce, just the final year of commerce then as well. So it was a very fantastic 4 years, very, very different. Every year was incredibly different. You're studying different things, varying subjects from microbiology to Excel to spreadsheets to maths to serving wine. It was incredibly varied and very interesting. And then obviously went to Geneva for a year and Galway as well. So it's a very, very interesting course that covers lots of different topics and lots of scope for different items then as well.
Well, I'm sure our audience today are going to be very interested in about your year abroad, because certainly when I was that age, sure, I couldn't wait to get traveling and working abroad. And from our previous discussions, I know that you met some really important and famous people whenever you were in Switzerland.
Yeah, so we were very lucky. I remember it was myself and Philip. There were two of us who started in the President Wilson, which is quite a famous hotel in Geneva on Lac Genève. And we were right beside the UN, one of the UN headquarters, where Mary Robinson at the time was the head. So she often came in, had lunch in the swimming pool section where I started. We would have had Yasser Arafat, who was the leader of Palestine at the time. His brother Sami Arafat was a regular. So we had a lot of different people. I remember seeing Lester Piggott. We had a lot of famous people passing through, and I think the most interesting thing of all the people were they were incredibly diverse. It was just, you'd everything from the Saudi royal family took, I think, 2/3 of the hotel for 3 months of summer, and I think it was one of the princesses stayed in the hotel. So you'd an incredibly diverse array of people who were staying in Geneva, which made it a very, very interesting place. And you saw different people, and we had 3 restaurants. We had the swimming pool area, which I worked at first, and then after that I went and worked in the Lebanese restaurant, which was fantastic, because obviously very different from what we have in Ireland. The cuisine is very different. So that was an incredible experience to work and understand Lebanese cuisine, Lebanese wines, and the chefs and some of the staff were also Lebanese. So it was interesting to hear them, their stories, and incredible because we quite a lot of Israeli people in the hotel as well, and Lebanese people, it was their first time to see Israeli people, and they would live quite close to the border, and the only other time they would see Israel is from the border. Otherwise a very segregated community, and possibly ones that didn't get on so well. So it was very interesting as a young person of 19 years of age. It was an incredible place to be.
And meeting people from different cultures means you learn a lot about those cultures, and it must be great to have that knowledge for when you have guests from different cultures visiting the Dunraven, if there's anything particular to their culture that you need to be mindful of.
Yeah, and I think language is a big thing as well. You know, being able to understand people and what they want, and I think traveling and understanding cultures is great, because it's very important that people have different customs in terms of what they eat and in terms of dinners and what time they do things, and Ireland is quite different from them as well. So it is very, very interesting. I think the most important thing is to, you know, if you are on an experience like that, is to try and learn as much language as possible, because that'll facilitate you in learning what people are saying and learning what their customs are, and getting involved with people as well. But for example, the Swiss are everything is very precise. You know, everything, the trains run exactly on time, table settings are exact, everything is very precise and very exact. Whereas obviously in Ireland that's slightly different. And then you take Spain and Italy, which are very, very different again. You know, they have a very, very different culture. Everything is much later. They dine at much later times. They would dine at 9 and 10 in the evening. So it's very different. But you know, again, we're very lucky to be part of the EU and part of Europe, because it's very easy to travel amongst these countries, and the culture is very hugely from Italy and Spain to Germany and to the Scandinavia. So we're very lucky. And again, it's kind of once you have a language, once you're able to communicate to people and understand some of their customs and what they're like, and then they feel comfortable. From our point of view in a hotel, we want our guests to feel comfortable when they come to the hotel, whether they're American, French, Spanish, German, Italian, or more so now, more Chinese and Japanese and Asian tourists who come to Ireland, come to Adare.
Very interesting as well that if you are a young person with an interest in politics, but you don't see yourself pursuing a career as a politician, that you could end up working with a politician from a hospitality perspective. You know, you've talked there about some of the politicians that you have catered for in Switzerland, and I'm sure you've had a number of politicians in the Dunraven, but I also know of one particular person who was the chef at the Irish Embassy in Paris for a few years. So it's not even that if you did go down the road of being a chef that you have to work in a hotel environment or a restaurant environment. There's lots of corporate opportunities there also. Whenever you are catering for people like that and meeting politicians or celebrities, and I'm going to share the screen now with a few people that you have met over the years, do you get a real buzz from that, or do you just take it all in your stride?
Definitely. I mean, I think Louis was the same, but we get, you know, we're very proud when we have, you know, celebrities or famous people or politicians who come and visit the hotel, some of which repeatedly come back and visit as well. So we get a mix, and we're very, very lucky. You know, again, we're lucky in the village of Adare. But the president, as you see in the photo, President Higgins, all the presidents, whenever they go to Kerry, will always stop at the Dunraven, which is very special. So myself and Louis have been very lucky. We've met from Mary Robinson to Mary McAleese to Michael D. Higgins. We've met all the presidents. They've all come and stopped in the hotel, which is fantastic. And again, we take Michael Dell, who's in the bottom right-hand picture. He's the head of Dell Computers, one of the biggest computer manufacturers on the planet. And Dell have obviously a huge plant with a huge number of employees in not only Limerick, but in Ireland, in Cork as well. And he's come and stayed with us as well. So we're very lucky to have them. We've Lee Westwood at the bottom of the right, who's one of the top golfers in the world. So we've had a lot of famous people, and people are very kind, and they come back quite often as well. But it's very exciting, and it's not just exciting for us, but I think all the staff really get a kick out of it. You can imagine we would have a lot of foreign staff, very similar. We have Czech students who are, you know, the same as we were in Shannon, and they come to work in Ireland, and they're working in the hotel, and they get to meet the President of Ireland, which is incredible. You know, to come to Ireland and meet the President of Ireland is very exciting. So we've been very lucky, very, very lucky. So hopefully we've the Pro-Am in the Manor next year, and the last time that was here, that brought plenty of celebrities. So hopefully in the next year we'll have plenty more. And when we open up on the June 2nd, we'll have plenty more people coming to visit.
And we've a question in the chat here. Somebody wants to know, are the celebrities good tippers?
I would believe so. I can't answer that categorically, but I believe they're very good tippers. But I think we're kind of spoilt in that Adare in particular is a destination for a lot of Americans, and Americans by their nature tend to tip very well. So it is. I find the porters who do the luggage and show the guests the rooms are become very, very wealthy after a summer at the Dunraven.
I'd say so, absolutely. And just to remind everybody, if they do have any questions, to put them in the chat there, ask your teacher to put them into the chat, and I'll pass them on to Hugh. We've only a few more minutes left, Hugh, before we hand over to Sarah. So I want to find out about Argentina, because you spent time in Argentina. What took you there initially?
So when I was in Switzerland, in Geneva, I was playing rugby, and there were several Argentines who were playing on the team who I became very friendly with. So I stayed in touch with them, and before I came back to the Dunraven, before I came back to Adare, I decided to travel for a year. So I went to Argentina, which was an incredible journey. And I remember when I arrived there, I flew from Shannon. I went to visit my uncle in America, so I flew from Shannon to the States, and I ended up in Lexington. From there, I flew to Canada, and then from Canada, I flew through Chile down to Buenos Aires. I landed in Buenos Aires, and I had no Spanish at the time, so my friend had arranged for his cousin to come and meet me and help me, and he put me on a bus in Buenos Aires to Posadas, which was a 12-hour bus, an overnight bus. This was after a 12-hour flight. I arrived in Posadas at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and met my friend Juan Pablo, and I think he let me sleep for an hour or two in a bed, which was very kind of him. And then we went to training. So we trained with the rugby team. I was playing with the team, so I trained with the team. And then that evening we went out into the countryside, and there was a big festival, and we were there for the evening, and that was a lot of fun. And then in the morning we got up at 6 a.m. the following morning. I just arrived in Argentina, and they brought us to this field, and it was full of horses, and you picked a horse, you took your horse, you saddled your horse, and we herded with the gauchos, which are the Argentine cowboys. We had 1,000 head of cattle, and we herded them over 50 kilometers from one area to the next area. So essentially spent 12 hours, I think. So we were about 7 o'clock until 7 in the evening, all by horseback. You had lunch on horseback, you stayed on the horse the whole way to get these cattle over 50 kilometers. And we did one day, but it's a 3-day event where they herd 1,000 head of cattle over 150 kilometers from one end of the country to another. And that was my first day in Argentina. So it's an amazing country. So I had a wonderful time when I was there.
And we've a question then asking, what was the highlight of that time in Argentina?
That particular day was fantastic. I was very lucky. I had a friend who had a farm, and he had about 5,000 cattle. So we used to go out there, and it was wonderful because you'd ride out with the gauchos, which are, in Argentina is a vast country, and they have very large farms. And it's the gauchos, the cowboys who work the land. So you got to ride out with the gauchos, which was incredible. And you'd work on this farm, and it was a working farm as well. So that was definitely a highlight. But I was very fortunate. There were plenty of highlights. I spent a month on a vineyard in Chile. We had friends in Chile, and I traveled for about a month down there, and I stayed on this vineyard, and we used to pick grapes. So you get on a bike and you'd ride around for a day and pick grapes and bring them back to the lab, and they would be tested to see what were the grapes suitable for winemaking. So I had a fantastic time.
Well, it certainly sounds like it. Very exciting the way that you get to use your languages, but learn new languages as well in those different placements. And I think we can't underestimate the knowledge and expertise that we can learn from all those different experiences. We may not realize it at the time, and it might not be so obvious at the time, but certainly as you progress in years and you look back and reflect and remember all those different experiences, you certainly appreciate all the learnings from them. So to finish up then, Hugh, what are the 3 pieces of advice that you would give to the transition year students here today if they are considering pursuing a career in hospitality, but they're maybe sitting on the fence and aren't 100% sure?
Yeah, I think the what are the key things is a language. One, I think regardless of what you do in the future, whether it be hospitality or something else, I think really when you're in secondary school in particular and you have that time, I think language is so important. I think if I have a regret is that my French or my Spanish aren't stronger, that I didn't work on them hard enough while I was in secondary school. But I think that's a key. I think it's a real skill, regardless of whatever industry, whether it be tech or medical or whatever you do, or hospitality. I think language is key. So I think that's really important. So I think if of anything, work on your language going forward. I think as well, with the kind of as a second point, hospitality in general, I have a lot of friends, all my friends from college who I was with in Shannon. It's not just working in hotels or restaurants, or as you were saying, your friend, the chef who worked in an embassy. A lot of people, it's a great education, particularly with commerce, as Sarah will go through the commerce degree and the hotel degree. You can end up at anything, you have those skills for accountancy, for marketing, human resources, for business. I have friends who are in lots of different industries, and they're in countries from Canada to Dubai. So I think I have one friend who's moving to Poland shortly as well. So it's the ability and the potential to travel with the degree and not necessarily in that industry, having the language to work with it then as well. And then again, as you're saying, it is really important to do those sports, to do whether it be sports or whatever hobbies, whatever you do outside of work is really, really important to do. And you make that time, you make it regardless of whatever job you do, but you make it work with what your hours and your job and what you're doing at the time as well. But I think once you can kind of balance everything, and once you work on those, then it makes it very enjoyable then as well.
Fantastic. Listen, all great advice and great examples of how your career has progressed to date. I'd say now, if you're looking for a 9-to-5 mundane job, hospitality isn't for you. The past 12 months have shown us, expect the unexpected. And I think there's something really attractive about that as a career option, that every day is different. And I would imagine you jump out of bed every day looking forward to what's ahead. Who are you going to meet? What challenges you're going to face? And then going to bed at night being full of appreciation that the day turned out well, and just going over what exciting things happened and what you have to look forward to the next day as well. So thanks a million for that, Hugh. I'm going to call on Sarah now from Shannon College of Hotel Management. And I think, Sarah, you yourself are another great example of a different career that somebody can go into, because you studied at Shannon, but now you're in marketing for the college yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose I like you, I studied the Bachelor of Commerce degree in Shannon. And I suppose I've worked in lots of different hotels in different parts of the world. And then I found myself working in sales and marketing for a hotel company. And it was then when the opportunity in the college came up in the marketing department that I thought, yeah, well, why not? I loved it so much as a student. Why not go back and try working there? So I'm working in the college since 2014. So yeah, they can't get rid of me now.
And I actually studied at Queen's in Belfast, and I did French and business there and went and worked in industry, but I ended up coming back into the university to work in one of the sections there that engaged with business. And I think there's something, it just does make you really proud to end up going back to work for your college or your university and seeing it from the other side. You feel a bit superior in some ways to the students there when you're marching around and you know where everything is at the start.
Yeah, no, I think so. It's just because there's actually a lot of Shannon alumni working in the college. So if you did come, your food and beverage lecturer Andrew Langford, he's a graduate. You've the placement officer Elaine Giltonen, Tracy Hegarty she teaches front office. There's Then you've Kate O'Connell, who teaches HR, Suzanne Kennedy, Pamela Lighty. There's a huge group of people who've actually come back as to work in the college, who are actually alumni, which is, I think, is a testament to the place, that it's a nice place to be.
Absolutely, and so many different ways to get into it. So you're going to talk now. I'm going to mute and turn my camera off, because you have a presentation for the students today that are actually going to talk through all the different options there. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Sarah.
Perfect. Thanks a million, Sharon. So I hope everyone can see my screen okay. Hopefully, yeah, I think it should be okay. So I suppose, as mentioned, my name is Sarah O'Mahony, and I'm the marketing manager in Shannon College of Hotel Management. As Sharon mentioned, I did study in Shannon myself. So if there are any questions from a student's perspective as well, I think Hugh and I are both well able to answer those questions as well, if there's anything you'd like to know about what it's like to actually be a student in Shannon, because it is a little bit of a different campus experience to some other university campuses. So firstly, I think it's important to mention that Shannon College is a college of NUI Galway. So we amalgamated with NUI Galway in 2015, which means we are fully owned, fully managed by the university. So we actually fit in as a part of the College of Business, Public Policy and Law. And the reason for that is because it is actually business degrees that we teach in Shannon. And I suppose you've heard a lot over the last couple of days about all the different areas that are involved in running a hotel. But at the end of the day, a hotel is a business. And that is what we are teaching our students, is how to run the business, how to run any business, but most particularly how to run a hospitality or the hotel business that you might find yourself in. So in Shannon, we offer 2 degree programs. So we have a Bachelor of Business Studies in International Hotel Management and a Bachelor of Commerce in International Hotel Management. So both level 8 business degrees. So the very same as if you went to study business in any of the other universities in the country, you are coming out with the same qualification. The only difference is, I suppose, is that we are focusing on hospitality, tourism, and hotels when you're going through that business degree. And I think that the fact that you are coming out with that full level 8 business degree, it means that you have fantastic flexibility when you do finish the program. And it means that you are really highly sought after in terms of employment opportunities when you do finish the course, both opportunities within hospitality and within hotels. And within hotels, there are so many different areas you can look at working, but also outside of hotels as well. And as Hugh mentioned, I would be the same, that a lot of my classmates, a lot of them are still working in hotels. Some are still working within different hospitality industries. And then others have gone into completely unrelated fields and are working in the likes of, places like Amazon, Google, Facebook, so really vast and really broad array of areas that people can go into. And I think that that's something that makes the course really special and quite unique. So the 2 programs, what I suppose for me attracted me to Shannon, there were 4 kind of key areas that made me think, yeah, this course is something that's a little bit different. So when I was in Leaving Cert, transition year, I definitely didn't know what I wanted to do. But even when it came to Leaving Cert, I was still really unsure. And I suppose when I learned a little bit about Shannon, it was all the different elements that were involved in it that really attracted me to the courses and made me consider it a little bit more. And the first thing that appealed to me was the fact that we were going to be studying for that full level 8 business degree. And I thought that was a really solid qualification to have when I would finish my course, and it would give me great options in different areas. So that was the first thing. It was the fact that we were getting that business degree. The second thing was that opportunity to work while we actually studied. So, the opportunity to develop your CV, to develop your career while you are still a student within the college, and you do get that opportunity throughout the 2 placement years within the course. The third thing then was the practical elements. So for me, while I was really excited about doing my business degree, I also wanted something that was more practical in its nature. So I loved the idea of the different practical elements that were involved in the program, like the kitchen, the restaurant, accommodation. So those really hands-on practical learning areas I was really interested in. And then finally, and probably the most important one for me, was that opportunity to travel and, you know, to go and live and work in different countries. And I think that that is something that has, you know, it's still even what attracted me to the job that I'm doing now, is that opportunity to travel, because I would travel quite a bit in normal times in this role, you know, to meet with students. So that opportunity to travel, if that's something that you really want, then it is something to consider when you are looking at courses and different career opportunities. So the two programs, I'll just talk you through kind of what happens in each of the years throughout the course. So for year 1 and year 2, the two programs are identical. There's no difference between the Bachelor of Business Studies and the Bachelor of Commerce for year 1 and year 2. So in year 1, for both programs, students are going to start their business studies subjects. So things like your management accounting, financial accounting, quantitative methods, principles of management. So those core business subjects that you would take on in any business degree that you would start. So you'll start those in year 1. At the same time as that, you're going to study 5 practical subjects. And those practical subjects are in areas like accommodation services, front office IT, kitchen, restaurant, and food science and skills for work life. So these are very much practical, hands-on classes. So, you know, you're not going to be learning them from a book. It is very much hands-on, and, you know, you're going to be actually learning by doing, which is something that really appeals to a lot of students, is that opportunity to, you know, to have that practical experience as well as the theory. So you'll spend time in our kitchens, in our restaurant, you'll spend time in the accommodations room within the college. You'll spend time in the hotel that's right next to the college, learning about accommodation services. So it's really, really hands-on and practical the way you learn these subjects. And it kind of gives you a break as well from the theory that you'll be learning in terms of the business subjects. The final element then to your first year will be your language subject. And the languages that we offer in Shannon are French, German, Spanish, and intercultural communications. So for the majority of our students, they would continue the language that they've studied for their Leaving Cert. So if you've studied French in the Leaving Cert, or German or Spanish, you would continue that language subject into first year in the college. If you have a language exemption, if you've come to us through a PLC program, or if you've taken a different language in the Leaving Cert, then you would study intercultural communications as your language subject. And the language subject that you study in first year of the program will decide where you go on your second year placement. So second year is a full 12-month work placement, where you will go to work in a hotel in Europe for the full 12 months. While you're on that placement, you'll work in between 3 and 5 departments within that hotel. And very importantly, while our students are on placement, they are always paid. So it is a paid professional placement that you are on. You'll go and you'll get to work and learn all about the hotel industry, but it's also a great opportunity to go and live and work in another country, experience a different culture, and, you know, as Hugh mentioned, meet lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, and it's also an amazing opportunity to travel. So I suppose the thing to remember is that, you know, while you might be based in Switzerland or Tenerife or Frankfurt, your classmates are going to be located in different parts of Europe. So it's a really good opportunity to go and visit those classmates and those friends that you've made in year 1, and actually see a bit of Europe on your days off. So for our French-speaking students, at the moment they would spend that second year in France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Monaco, or Switzerland. Our German-speaking students are in Wolfsburg, Frankfurt, or Berlin. Our intercultural communication students are in London or Scotland. And at the moment, our Spanish-speaking students are in Spain or Tenerife. So, you know, great opportunities for to go to the country that you're going to live in. But as I said, also really, really good opportunities to go and travel and visit your classmates, which I certainly took advantage of when I was on my second year placement. It's always good to know somebody that's living in a place that you're going to visit, and so that you have somewhere to stay and you don't have to worry about that. So it is a great opportunity to travel and see a bit of Europe while you're on that placement. Third year then, you're back in Shannon. And in third year, you're really focusing on your business and your management subjects. So you're looking at things from a more senior perspective when you come back into the third year. So you're going to introduce some new business subjects, so things like your economics, your marketing, your HR. But these are all subjects that you've started to develop knowledge in throughout your first year and also on that second year placement. But when you come back into third year, you're really looking at it from a more senior and a managerial perspective. So how you would actually run these different departments within a hotel. Fourth year then is when our two programs split. So for the students who are doing the Bachelor of Business Studies degree, they're going to stay in Shannon and they're going to continue to do a broad business program. So continuing to learn about all the different areas involved in business. So you'll continue with some marketing subjects, some management subjects, HR, finance, so very broad, continuing with all aspects of business. You'll also have the chance to choose elective subjects in that year. So you can choose electives in things like advanced beverage studies, hotel asset management, event management, intercultural communications management, what else? Advanced culinary studies, lots of different areas, but you decide which areas you've a particular interest in. So this is your opportunity to kind of tailor your degree in the direction that you want to go. So good opportunities. So the Bachelor of Business Studies students, they would be continuing to learn a little bit more about the hospitality industry as opposed to just general business. The Bachelor of Commerce students then, for that final academic year, they're going to transfer to NUI Galway's main campus, and on the main campus, you will have the chance to specialize in one business area. So if you had a particular interest in accounting, digital business analytics, marketing, HR, economics, whatever it was, you could decide to focus on that area for that final academic year. So, you know, again, this is the fourth year is your opportunity to kind of tailor your degree and kind of guide the direction of your degree yourself. So good opportunity to do that there. At the end of year 4 then, all of our students go on their final work placement. And that work placement is essentially your first job. So it is completely up to the students at that stage where they would like to go. Basically what happens is we work with about 130 hotel companies from around the world. During normal times, they would come to our campus and they would do presentations for our students. At the moment, those presentations are happening virtually. So students are still getting those presentations. They're just not happening in person. But hopefully by the time you'd be getting to fourth year of college, this will all be a very distant memory, and we'll be back to having everyone on campus. So these are just a few of the examples of the countries that are very popular with our students. So the likes of London, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, New York, Boston, Colorado. We've placements in places like Hong Kong, Thailand, the Seychelles Islands. We've excellent placements here in Ireland as well for students who are interested in staying a little bit closer to home for that final year and starting to develop their career in Ireland. So amazing opportunities, and they are located all over the world. And we work with some of the best hotel companies from around the world as well. So it's a great opportunity to, I suppose, meet with employers and get your foot in the door and start your career in whatever direction it is you're interested in. So then just to talk to you a little bit about entry requirements for the program. So firstly, I suppose all applications for our programs do go through the CAO. So, and for you to be eligible for our programs, you do need to have your 2 H5s and your 4 O6 or H7s in the Leaving Cert. You need to have your English, Irish, Maths, and a third language. unless you have a language exemption, which is perfectly fine. It just needs to be registered with the NUI. That's really important. Another thing to mention is that you do not need to have a business studies subject to study in Shannon. All of the business subjects will start from the very beginning when you come into first year. Now, the points for our programs, when you look at them, and they do look very, very high. So for the Bachelor of Business Studies, the cutoff point last year was 497. And for the Bachelor of Commerce, it was 681. But it's not as bad as it looks, because our application process is a little bit different to other programs, in that every student who comes to Shannon will sit an entrance interview as part of their application for the college. So in that interview, you have the chance to gain up to 300 CAO points. Those points are added to your Leaving Cert points, and that's what makes up your application for Shannon. So when you look at the 497, 681, that's a combination of your Leaving Cert points and the points that you've gotten in your interview. So it's a combination of the two. The interviews themselves, they usually will take place in April. So we've just finished the first round of CAO interviews for this year. And then there's a second round of interviews in July. And that's for any students who put us down in the change of mind facility through the CAO. So we're not a restricted course. You can put us down at any stage of the CAO process. For yourselves, you're based in Limerick, so you would usually come to Shannon for your interview. At the moment, the interviews are online, but again, as we said, hopefully we'll be back to normal in the next for the next intake, we're hoping. So you would be coming to Shannon for that interview. And as I said, up to 300 points are available in the interview. To pass the interview, you do need to get a minimum of 150. And then you would know after you've been, if you've passed the interview, that you have a minimum of 150 points before you even go into the Leaving Cert, which is really good to know. Now the interview. The interview, I think, is something that a lot of people get very nervous about. And this could be an interview for Shannon or an interview for a part-time job, something that, or maybe an internship that you're going on throughout the summer. But interviews, I think, to prepare for an interview is really, really important, no matter what the interview is for. So Louis had asked me to put together a few tips that might be useful for students who are applying for part-time work or for, maybe summer work, or also if you are thinking of in the future applying to Shannon. So I think these tips would work for either of those situations. So the first thing that I've said is to make sure that you've done your research. So know about the property that you are applying for. So if it was a hotel you're applying for, know a little bit about the hotel. Know how many bedrooms there are. Know what type of guests they welcome in the hotel, and know the type of business that it is. If it's the college, make sure that you know the types of courses we offer, what is exactly involved in each of the courses. So just do your research and know exactly what it is you've applied for. Another thing, that if you do know who is going to be on your interview panel, there might be no harm in maybe also looking into the people that are on the panel. So for example, if you knew that the head chef was going to be interviewing you, maybe have a look at the hotel's menu and look at the type of food that they serve, so that you have a little bit of an understanding as to what it is they do in the hotel. My next tip would be to dress appropriately. So think about the place that you're interviewing for. So for example, if you're interviewing for a hotel and you've had a look at their website, all the photos of staff you have seen, they're wearing a full business suit. Well, then you should decide that, okay, I better dress formally for my interview. And now if you're coming for interview in the college, we don't expect you to go out and buy a brand new suit. You can wear your school uniform and make sure that it is that you're well turned out, that you're tidily dressed, and that you're dressed appropriately. Otherwise, if you had maybe a shirt and the black trousers, that would be appropriate as well. So just try to fit the style of the property that you are, or the company that you're going to interview for. Think about why you would like to be successful in the interview. So for example, if you're applying for a job in the Dunraven Arms, why do you want that job? And how are you going to get that across within the interview? So That's really important to get that passion across and that real interest in working for the company. Be punctual. I suppose that one is an obvious one. Make sure that you are there before your scheduled time, even if it's just to sit outside or wait outside the door. Make sure you're there, because things can happen, things go wrong and you get delayed, and there's nothing worse than rushing into an interview because you'll be stressed, and it's much better just to be there a little bit early and make sure that you've plenty of time to settle before you go into the interview. Make sure you show your passion. I said that, show them that you really want this role or you want this position in the hotel, the college, whatever it is, and really make sure that you get that across throughout the interview. Take your time, speak slowly, and ensure that you've been heard. And especially if it's going to be an online interview, make sure to take your time, make sure that your sound is working, that they can see you, and that you speak slowly. And also, if you speak a little bit more slowly, then you also are giving yourself a little bit more time as well to think about your answers before you actually, before you say them. And then finally, and I think the most important one, try to have a practice run with a friend or a family member before the real thing. And I think that will really, really stand to you if you do just have a little practice, have a look online for some sample questions that you think might come up, and just have a think about the way you're going to go about answering those questions. And I think Hugh mentioned that as well earlier, that he had done some practice interviews, and it definitely will stand to you when it comes to the real thing. So try to have a practice run. And if there's nobody for you to have a practice with, even if you just practice answering those questions yourself, even if it's just looking at yourself in the mirror, that will even stand to you, just to have had a practice and to have thought about the way you're going to answer those questions. So I think that's all the tips from me. I'm going to hand you back over to Sharon, and she might have some, I think maybe Louis might have something to add to that, some advice from his point of view as well.
Sarah, thanks a million for that. I think that's been really useful, and I just put into the chat there about the interview tips that the students should make a note of those and put them into their notes app and their phone, just to have them, because regardless of what they're going to be up to in the future, it's, they're very good tips to have for them, and just to remind themselves of them when the time comes around. If anybody does have a quick question for Sarah before she signs off, you're very welcome to put it into the chat. And while you're thinking about that, I'm delighted to announce the winner of the slogan competition that we had. And just to let you know that Laura Ryan, who's the head of marketing communications in Limerick City and County Council, was very impressed by all the entries, and us on her thank yous for taking the time to send them in. And she was particularly impressed by the winner because she felt that they really read the brief and took it on board. And they also used one of the key words that is part of the Limerick brand, the Limerick Age Embrace brand, and that word was embrace. So I'm delighted to announce that the winner is from Laurel Hill. It's a student called Sinead O'Brien, and congratulations, Sinead, on your slogan, which was culture, comfort, cuisine, embrace the Limerick experience. And thanks a million for that. And remember to make a note of winning this competition for whenever you go forward in your interviews and applications, especially if you decided to go down the route of advertising or marketing, because that's a great one to add to your CV. So Sarah, you're off the hook. There's no questions in the chat there for you. So I'm going to come on to Louis now and add him to the spotlight and take you away, Sarah. Thanks a million for all of that. And Louis, thank you for the opportunity to be involved now over the past couple of weeks. It's been great to engage with students again. I don't have much opportunity to do that. And I know that you're very excited for the 2nd of June. You won't feel it now, as they say. And hopefully a number of the students that have been on the Zooms over the past couple of weeks will be sending in CVs and applications to you, because I know you're going to have a huge requirement there for more staff, especially over the summer and from the 2nd of June. So without further ado, I'm going to say thanks very much, and I'm going to sign off and leave the last word to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sharon. And to thank all the TY students from all the colleges that have listened in to the modules over the last number of weeks. I hope you've enjoyed them and found them interesting and insightful for you all. As Sarah was saying there with the interview process, there's a lot of things there that she said are so easy to put in place. Your TY coordinators and students will be teaching you about preparing your CVs and the cover letters, etc. Very important. And then when it comes to interviews, very briefly, Hugh and I would interview students, TY students or younger students, and we ask, have you experience? And you'll get invariably a lot of students saying, no, I have no experience. But when we then start talking to you, it then turns out that you've been babysitting, you have worked with the GA at Cool Camp, or you might live on a farm and you're helping on the farm, or your parents have a shop, or your relations, or you're helping in the shop, and all of a sudden we talk to you and all these things come out, and that is experience. And don't forget that. Or even under the times that we have at the moment, COVID thankfully is hopefully finishing, but maybe some of you be helping grandparents, doing the loans, doing the shopping for them, or neighbours, or you have an opportunity to do it for an elderly neighbour, drop them a letter. I saw it recently where somebody dropped in a letter and said, if I can be of any help to do the shopping or cut your lawn or wash the car or whatever. I thought that was fantastic. And that's a great opportunity for you in the year that's in it, because there will be restrictions still throughout the summer. So that's where you can go and help and put all that down in your CV. We love to see that. And that is one of the determining factors when employers are taking on staff. They want to see that they have had some sort of experience during school holidays. So that's just another little tip for you on it. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you all, the TY students from all the various colleges in Limerick and County Limerick that have listened in. To your TY coordinators and teachers, thank you for putting it all together. You've been very, very kind. To Sarah and Shannon, or Sharon, excuse me, Sarah from Shannon College and Sharon Noonan, just to say thank you for facilitating this. We really enjoyed it. And from Hugh and I and all the team here at the hotel, thank you. And we wish you all the very best in your future careers. So thank you all, and bye-bye from all of us.